Hello book lovers, and welcome to another vlog. It is Sunday morning, a little around 8:30ish, and I am downtown Olympia. I'm about to do some walking. I showed up and there seems to be some sort of race, some sort of, I don't know, charity thing going on. So it might be a little bit crowded on the path, but you know, we're here. This vlog is gonna go through Sunday the 19th through Saturday the 24th. It is a new week-long round of Squash That series, which is hosted by Is Bailey Reading and Kayla Ray Reads. The goal of this readathon is to continue and finish series. For this round, we are focusing on reading books that are further along in the series. You get to collect points, and as you reach a certain level of points, you can increase which level you're at, and the points are equal to the number the book is in the series. So if it's book 3, you get 3 points. If it's book 4, you get 4 points, and etc. So I do have a TBR for this readathon specifically. You can hear me talk about it in my March TBR, or of course you can just watch a vlog and hopefully I get to all the books that I mentioned there. I am still waiting on 2 of the audiobooks to come in. I am next in line, so fingers crossed that they actually show up this week. But for now, as I'm walking, I'm actually going to be listening to an audiobook that doesn't count towards this readathon. It is part of a series. It is Hellbent by Lee Bardugo, but I am a little over 60% done with it already. But since it's a newer book, if I lose my hold on it, I would have to wait a few weeks to finish it. So I'm just gonna listen to the last, 5.5 hours or so, however much I have left of that, and then get started on my other audiobooks. I'm gonna go for my walk now. I need to do a little bit of grocery shopping for dinner tonight. Then I have some chores I need to do when I get home. But once I finish all that up, I will go ahead and check in with you with my first physical read. But I just wanted to pop in and say hello and welcome to a new vlog. So I am here for my first update. It is a little bit before 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I finished all my chores for the day until obviously I cooked dinner, and I have also finished my first read of the readathon. So I started off with a short comic. This is volume 2 of Fence by C.S. Pacat, Joanna the Mad, and Joanna Lafuente. This is a YA comic following a young fencer called Nicholas. He is the bastard child of a world famous fencer and is hoping to become a very well-known fencer himself. He is at a high school currently on scholarship, on a athletic scholarship for fencing, obviously. And in this book, or at least the first 2 volumes, we are watching as the school is holding tryouts for their fencing team, which is a very high stakes for him, because if he does not make the team, then he loses his scholarship and he would no longer be able to attend this school. So he himself grew up very poor, and this is a private high school, so he's definitely surrounded by people that grew up very differently from him. On this cover, you can see that he has a rival. This rival is the number 2 fencer within their age group in the country, I'm assuming. And our main character, Nicholas, during a competition year or so ago, was beat by this fencer and has kind of decided that it is his goal in life to beat him. And so he's very surprised to find him at the same school as him. He assumed he'd be at one of the higher ranking high schools. We still don't really know why this high ranking fencer is at a lower ranked high school at this point. But the two of them are definitely rivals and roommates. This comic has a lot of queer representation in it. I've grown on the art style a little bit. I gave the first volume 3 stars. I was just a little bit underwhelmed by it, but I think I'm gonna give this one 3.5 stars. It actually made me laugh out loud a few times. I feel like the competition was definitely more intense in this one as well, and like I mentioned, the art style was growing on me a little bit. I'm usually not so used to this brightly colored style, so it wasn't really my thing, but I think I'm getting used to it a bit more, and I'm definitely interested to see where volume 3 is going. Don't have too much more to say on it, but it was a good time, and this does gain me 2 points for the readathon. All right, so I'm going to jump into my first book. This is still a novella, and that's Under One Roof by Ali Hazelwood. I kind of marked here where this novella ends. I think it's about 123 pages long. I'm hoping to finish this today, and we'll see how that goes. I seem to always overestimate my reading speed, but we'll give it a go. I don't have any other plans until it is time for me to cook dinner, so I have about 4 hours to read this, which hopefully my reading is at least fast enough where I can read 123 pages in 4 hours. In this novella, I have to admit, I don't know what's going on, so I'm just going to read the little blurb. It says an environmental engineer discovers that scientists should never cohabitate when she finds herself stuck with the roommate from hell, a detestable big oil lawyer who won't leave the thermostat alone. So I think this is the first time I've read a book from Ali Hazelwood where both the characters aren't scientists, because it sounds like he's a lawyer rather than a scientist. So I'll be interested to check out their dynamic. It also seems to be like some forced proximity because they're stuck in this apartment together. And yeah, I've always enjoyed her work. I gave them either 5 or 4.5 stars. This will be my 3rd story from her, and when I finish it, it'll be worth 3 points for this readathon. So since it's just a novella, I'll probably just check in with you once I finish it. So I'm here for a reading update. I don't know what time it is. I'm assuming sometime after 6 o'clock. You probably saw a little bit of B-roll from me making dinner, but then I got really stressed out about it. So I was no longer able to take the time to film it because there was just too much going on, and I suck at frying chicken apparently. So shout out to my mom for helping me. On the bright side, it turned out delicious, but I probably won't be doing that anytime soon again. But before I started cooking dinner, I did finish Under One Roof by Ali Hazelwood. I think I'm gonna give this 3.5 stars, which is definitely the lowest that I've ever given her writing, because I've always given them like 5 or 4.5 stars. Well, I mean, I've only read 2 books. That makes it sound like I've read a ton of them. But yeah, I feel like this is a 3.5 star read. I think I had a little bit of trouble with like the beginning of it. The setup annoyed me a little bit. Enemies to lovers in contemporary is very much a hit or miss with me, and I think in this situation it was a bit of a miss, but luckily they eventually were able to resolve their issues and have kind of like a truce, which then became more, and I did enjoy that aspect of it. I thought that the story, despite only being 123 pages, really allowed the author to fully flesh out their relationship. So I did like that. I did very much believe in the relationship by the end of the book. I feel like this book didn't have like as much humor as her full-length novels had, so I did miss that a little bit. And it being a novella, I feel like oftentimes there's at least 1 or 2 threads that get started in a novella but never fully wrapped up, and I did feel that a little bit in this book. And also, I'm gonna be honest, I thought that the sex scene was a little bit awkward, just a little bit on the awkward side. I did like that this was her first book where the man also expressed that he was on the ace spectrum, because I don't think in the full-length novels the men were described as being demisexual or anything along those lines. It was more like the women. So in this book, the man and the girl are, well, I guess the man and the woman are both on the A spectrum, so I did enjoy that. But it was also just, I don't know what it was, but it was just like slightly awkward, and I think it might have been like his sexy talk that was like not 100% doing it for me, but it was still a fun time. I really enjoyed the story. I mean, I sat down and read it in one go. So, I mean, it kept me entertained, and I do feel like I'll like the other 2 a little bit better, because I really think that it was like that initial set off that turned me off from it just for a little while. But yeah, I will read the next ones in the next few months. But this was book 3 in the series. I know it's technically book 1 of the novellas, but I'm counting The Love Hypothesis as book 1 and Love on the Brain as book 2, book 3, and so forth and so forth. So that puts me at a total of 5 points so far today. I also made a little bit more progress in Hellbent, so I think I have about 3 hours left of that. So hopefully I finish that in the next day or 2. And I just want to go ahead and talk about the next book that I will be reading. This is the first full-length novel, and that is The Ippo's King by Grace Drabin. This is the 3rd book to Radiance, so this will be another 3 points for me. In this world, there are 2 kingdoms. Well, there's 3 kingdoms. 2 of them are ruled by humans, and one of them consists of a species called the Kai. And these kind of look like this lady here. They're like gray, and they have claws and black eyes and sharp teeth. In the first 2 books of this series, we follow the human niece of a king, as well as the prince of the Kai kingdom, and there is an arranged marriage, and the two of them come together and fall in love. It's a friends to lovers situation. They are one of my favorite couples. I really enjoy Joyce Draven's writing. Her romances are very sweet and lighthearted. I also really enjoy her plot. I'm not going to talk about the plot in this too much because it might be spoilery for the first two books. But in this book, we are actually following the prince's cousin. She is a bastard child of one of the royal members. So she was kind of looked down by her family, and the prince of this kingdom was seen as kind of worthless because he was never going to see the throne because of how many heirs his older brother had produced. And so the two of them were very much friends, and she highly respects him, and she's a really great warrior. And throughout the series, we have seen this human man kind of courting her, and her somewhat thawing to his advances. And I'm very much looking forward to watching their relationship come to fruition. He is actually a I never know what he is. I don't know if it says. So the back says he's a Margrave. I don't know what that means, if I'm being totally honest. So he's a Margrave of the third human kingdom. So not the human kingdom where the main female in the first two books comes from. So he's kind of like the enemy kingdom. So the human girl from the first book and the Kai prince married so they could form an alliance so that that third human kingdom wouldn't go to war with them. Let me just complicate the series as much as possible. But yeah, he's from the what's seen as the enemy kingdom, but he is a very close friend of this prince and does not approve of the behavior of those in power in his kingdom. So I'm very interested to kind of see what kind of political plot Grace Draven brings into the story, and how she wraps it up. You know, it'll be interesting because it seems like there was supposed to be a fourth book, but this book came out in 2017 and there hasn't been anything, so I'm kind of worried that it might have a bit of an open ending. But all the same, we're going in, we're gonna have fun, and I'll let you know when I'm probably about halfway through the book to give you my initial thoughts. Alright guys, so it is Wednesday. I haven't checked in with you since I think Monday. It is around 9:30. I'm about to head out to an appointment. I do have today off of work, so hopefully I'll get some reading done. I did want to check in real quick to let you know that I finished my audiobook for Home by Nnedi Okorafor, and I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. With these novellas, I have a relatively good time. I think I don't get overly invested in the character or the plot, just because it is such a short book. But as far as novellas go, I've definitely enjoyed it more than I have others. I think that the plot points are relatively interesting. The themes of this specific book focused heavily on PTSD, kind of the after effects that our character is going through after a trauma she experienced in the first book. We are also dealing a bit with kind of learned prejudice against certain groups of people and trying to overcome that. So those were some really interesting themes that were inserted into the story quite well. And I would say that I enjoyed the path that the plot took and where it seems to be heading. Definitely left off on a bit of a cliffhanger, so I am excited that I am going to be picking up book number 3, The Night Masquerade, today as well. That is my next audiobook. I don't really know anything about this. Just going with the flow, haven't read the synopsis, just gonna see where the story takes me, and I'll give you an update once I get maybe 50% through. This is the longest of the 3 books, so I think it's about 6 hours long. As far as my physical read goes, I'm about 50 pages away from the 50% mark, and I will go ahead and check in with you again once I reach that. For now, I'm going to go to my appointment, hit the gym real quick and get my booster shot because I have put that off for a very long time. And then I'll sit or come home and try and get as much reading done as I can. All right, so it is almost 5 o'clock on Wednesday, and I have finally reached around the 50% mark of this book that I thought I would be finishing today, but will definitely not be doing that. For some reason, it is definitely slow going for this book. I'm definitely not drawn to the characters or the plot as quickly or as strongly as I was in the first 2 books, which is unfortunate. I'm still enjoying it, I'm, going through it at a pretty good pace and am intrigued by what is happening and what could happen. The further we get into the story, it does seem like here at the 50% mark, we'll be getting to a more action-packed and plot-forward part of the story. The first half of it, I think, was very much kind of focusing on the 2 characters' relationships, and there was like a lot of traveling going on, so there wasn't actually like too much happening plot wise, which was just making it a bit of a slow go. But I'm hoping that with things getting a little bit more intense and the stakes getting a little higher, that everything will move along quicker. I am still enjoying Grace Draven's writing as I did in the first 2 books. I do like the 2 characters. I don't like reading from them as much as I did the characters in the first 2 books. But by no means do I dislike being in their heads or anything along those lines. I have to admit, so far, their relationship, it hasn't in any way gotten romantic yet, but it's definitely gradually growing. At this point, I'm not rooting for them, but I'm also not overly invested and in love with this couple. The couple in the first 2 books is like one of my favorite couples of all time, so these guys are just not living up to my expectations that I had going into the story, which is a bummer for them. But I'm still saying that this is probably like a 3.5 star read. I can definitely see it going up to like a 4.5 depending on how the second half of the book goes. So we'll just go ahead and continue on with this, and hopefully I will finish it in time to finish another book by Saturday. But honestly, at this point, it's not looking like that'll happen. It is what it is. As far as my audiobook, I don't have anything to say on it yet, but I will say that I was able to get through about 18%, so we are making progress on that as well. So I will go ahead and check in with you when I finish my next book.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up.
Alright guys, so it is a Saturday morning, afternoon. It's a little bit after 10 o'clock, and I just wanted to give you my final thoughts for the Ippos King. I did finish this last night, but I think yesterday my COVID booster shot was like really kicking my butt because I was like so tired. So I figured I'd wait until today to go ahead and give you my thoughts on this. So I think I'm gonna give this a 3.5 stars. I had a good time with it, but unfortunately not as good a time as I did with the first two books, which I think I gave both of them 5 stars. So this one was a little bit of a letdown. I really think it was because the first half of the book was just too uneventful and too slow moving. I felt like at this point in the series, we've had a decent amount of world building already, and we have seen these two characters interact with each other and their relationship kind of grow a little bit in the first two books. And so I felt like the author spent too much time building the relationship, considering we weren't starting at, point A with this relationship. It was already a somewhat developed relationship at the beginning of the book. And so it just dragged a little bit in my opinion. The second half of the book was definitely better, but there were kind of like two villains in the story. And I thought one of the villains was handled in a very anticlimactic way. And then the other one was handled decently, I guess. I'm more of a revenge girly, so I didn't quite get that kind of revenge closure that I was hoping we would get. But one thing I will say is that this was not supposed to be the last book in the series from what I can tell, and I tried not to hold that against this book. So I didn't lower the rating at all because I was like, oh, this didn't wrap everything up like a final book should, because I really think the author was expecting to write another book and may still plan on doing so. But it's been probably about 6 years since this came out, and I haven't heard anything about the next one. So I'm considering this the end of a series, but there are still some open plot points in this story that are not resolved, which for me, it's not the end of the world. I mean, the relationship aspect of this book has a good closure and everything. They have their happy ending, as romances do. But, if you're someone who doesn't want to get into a series knowing that it may never be finished, that's just something you may want to keep in mind before diving into this. I mean, for all we know, the author may just be working on other stuff and may come back to this eventually. But for now, I haven't seen anything. I will say that, especially in the second half of the book, our characters really grew on me quite a lot. I really enjoyed their banter. I'm sorry if you can hear my dad drilling away in the garage. I really enjoyed their banter and just the way that they really warmed up to each other throughout this story and became more comfortable around each other. And their sense of humor when they flirted was just, it was a good time. They were a great couple to be with. Just didn't quite live up to, the first couple, because Eldiko is her name, I think, and Brishan are one of my all-time favorite couples, and these just unfortunately couldn't compete. But all in all, I had a good time, and I still do recommend Grace Draven as an author because her writing and world building continues to be pretty impressive, especially if you're looking for fantasy romances that are more plot driven and not just fully focused on a romance. So that is actually going to be the last physical book that I read for this readathon. It is the last day of the Squashette series readathon, and I was hoping to read Escaping Houdini by Carrie Maniscalco, and that book is almost 500 pages, and that's definitely not going to happen today, especially since we are going to head out in the afternoon. Some family is visiting and we're gonna go out and meet them, so I will probably be out the remainder of the day. If something interesting happens, if we go somewhere pretty, I might get some b-roll. Other than that, I'm going to finish the last 2 or so hours of The Night Masquerade by Nnedi Okorafor. I'm really enjoying it. This third book here is definitely gonna be my favorite of the series, and I will let you know my final thoughts and wrap up this vlog when I finish that. So I am back from being out all day. Definitely went a little later than I thought it would, but it is around 10:30 at night and we just got home. So I thought I'd real quick finish up this vlog before I get ready for bed. So I did finish my final read, my audiobook of The Night Masquerade on the drive up to Seattle. I'm actually going to give this one 4 stars. I actually had a lot of fun, especially in the last like 40% of this book. My love for the character really kind of blew up towards the end of that book. Really enjoyed her actions at the end of that story. I thought she was a very complex character. Sometimes I would forget that she was just a 17-year-old girl, and other times it was very obvious that she was a 17-year-old girl. So I kind of enjoyed those 2 sides of her. I thought that the ending was very unique and unexpected, so that was a lot of fun. Now, I don't know if I've said this before. If I have, I'm sorry. Sometimes with vlogging, I kind of forget what I've said and what I haven't said already. And I just wanted to say, if you read the first book and were just like slightly underwhelmed by it, because I myself was, I think I maybe gave it like 3 stars, definitely try giving the second and third book a shot. I feel like the first book is kind of just like the hand nudging over that first domino, and then things really get going. So the first book is kind of like, hey, this is how we got to where we're at, and now everything is kind of getting a little crazy. So yeah, I did have a good time with that story. Definitely glad I went ahead and read those 2 this month. As for a summary of my readathon, I ended up with a total of 13 points, which ended me on level 3 out of 4. The color, I believe, is green because each level had a color associated with it. So not too shabby. I started this by reading volume 2 of Fence. I also read Under One Roof by Ali Hazelwood. I then read Home by Nnedi Okorafor, The Ippos King by Grace Draven, and then finished it off with The Night Masquerade, also by Nnedi Okorafor. So we completed 2 series and made progress in 2. So we completed 2 series by finishing The Ippos King and The Night Masquerade, and we made a progress in 2 series by reading Fence and Under One Roof. So I would say it was a success. I didn't read everything that I wanted, but I'm still really happy with what I got to during this readathon, and I look forward to the next round. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me during this vlog. I always appreciate your support, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye!